You're going to be one of the bloopers
Started
anyways. We're going to leave that one alone. Last 3 steps to home buying process. Let's get into it.
Yes.
Okay, so Cliff with the RA Real Estate, I always forget to say it, but I think you already know who it is, and you know who she is.
Beck, Sun American Mortgage.
Right away. Football weekend.
Oh, man. My Broncos pulled off a win, so I'm happy.
I mean, how can a New York Giants blow a 19-point lead? Not that I'm a Giants fan, but I do live in New York. But
a win's a win.
I don't. Anyways, okay. All right, well, give us the update, not the scores for the week.
Yes. Okay, so conventional, we're at 6% starting rate. Yes, big deal.
Haven't seen that in a while.
No, so advertised rate you're probably seeing out there is 5.75. That's with some type of a buy down. And then on the FHA side, you're looking at 5.625 as a starting rate, and then 5.25 is probably the advertised rate you're seeing with some type of a buy down.
Nice.
So really good rates out there right now.
Yeah. I think that'll hold steady for the last quarter, or you think they'll?
I think we're going to see some. Yeah, we'll see a little bit. Yeah. So
Just
you want to make sure we lock it and time it as well as we can. But the great news is you can always refinance too. So as long as we get you into a home.
Yeah. And we've actually helped people about 2 years ago close, and they did the 2-1 buy down, so that means 2 years at a buy down, and now they're refinancing.
Yeah,
a lot of them. So
that's
good.
Yep.
Okay, last 3 steps. What do we got? Well, let's go through that. So the first is GRIP pre-approved, home under contract, sign loan estimate, order the home inspection, and then the home appraisal. Remember the 2 differences.
Yep.
Submit loan to underwriting, and then conditional loan approval. Now let's go into the last 3.
Yep. So the last 3 are after conditional loan approval. There are typically some additional documents that we need to gather from you. And then that gets back into underwriting for a final loan approval, which then you go to signing and closing. So those are our last 3 steps.
Okay.
So gathering additional documents, again, that don't be stressed for that. That's something that's pretty typical. Conditional approval, make sure that we meet your finance and appraisal deadline, that as long as we meet these conditions, everything should be smooth sailing. Mm-hmm. And then we gather those conditions, resubmit to underwriting to show that all of those conditions are satisfied, essentially. And then we get that final loan approval, or it's also known as clear to close.
That's something a real estate agent loves to hear.
Big deal. Yep, clear to close.
CTC.
Yep. So when you get that clear to close, we then on the lending side send out on a final closing disclosure, which you would have started with a loan estimate that you sign. You usually get a closing disclosure somewhere through the process, and then which is an initial closing disclosure, and then that final closing disclosure. They should all be fairly similar to each other, just kind of fine tuning everything.
And that has to happen 3 days before settlement, correct?
3 days before you can sign your closing documents. Right. We have to have that closing disclosure out to you. So that way you can review it and be prepared for what to expect in the end.
So since I'm licensed in 2 states, here in Utah, they call it settlement and closing. So they're 2 different things.
Same.
Florida, just closing. So 3 days before any of that has to happen. So, and I like to receive it to go over with my clients. Because again, like Bex was saying, it could change before we actually sign everything, but usually it's in like $100 range. Yeah. It's not going to change much in 3 days. So you'll see 2 columns. One is credits. And if you work with Bex, you're going to get a credit for your home appraisal. So that's a credit in one column. Yep. And your other column is debits. Right, so what you owe. So if the house is $400,000, that's going to be a debit.
A debit.
So and then there's going to be some other closing costs in there. But the 2 columns really break it down. And I like to go through it as a real estate agent with all of my clients to know exactly. So if you're getting ready to close and you have 3 days, we're going to call it closing just to ask your real estate agent for that closing document, because the last thing you want is to get to that closing table
and be surprised.
And all of a sudden, what is this charge? And then everything goes whoops.
Yep.
So know what you're getting into ahead of time and go through that. So that's 3 days before closing, or here in Utah, 3 days before settlement.
Yep. And that's really the biggest part right there. And then you're just waiting to sign and close. So if you get us your documents really quickly, we're able to get through underwriting really quickly. You might get that closing disclosure a week before we actually sign and close. It kind of just depends on how everything flows, but for sure, at least 3 days before at the very latest. And then you get to the signing table. So the signing table is typically done at the title company. Yep. That's the trickiest piece that people don't know where title really falls in. Right. They do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. You don't really get to see them until the very end, when they actually help you sign your documents.
And then when you sit down, Bex, I know Sun American's really good because when you come in to sign everything, you have to have your money for your down payment ready to go, any closing costs. That money has to be on hand, ready to go, ready to wire in to an escrow account that's set up by title. So they're the third party, right? They're
Handle all
totally
the pieces.
neutral, right? So the buyer and seller actually never go into any bank accounts until it's done with title.
Yep.
And then once title receives that, they give notification to Bex.
It's
and
clear
then
to
what
fund.
do? You fund.
Yep.
So a lot of times if we're in at the title company at 9 o'clock in the morning and everything goes through on the buyer's side, down payment, and title company lets Bex know, and then that gets funded usually within the same day.
Yeah.
Usually we close on the same day, normally.
Yeah.
Now, in Utah, they have 4 days to do that. You have technically 4 days to fund, but
Yep.
everybody's so excited after signing.
Yeah.
They usually are pretty quick about getting it out. So.
Sometimes if multiple parties, if you're getting a gift from mom and dad and maybe your uncle's giving you a gift or something unique like that, sometimes it can take a little bit longer. But like Cliff says, if you're signing first thing in the morning, you go to your bank and you send the wire for the funds of whatever you're responsible for. Seller does the same thing. It usually can fund the same day, or if not, typically the day after is pretty common.
So if banks stop wiring at 3 o'clock.
That is true.
3 p.m. That's at every state.
Yep. And some credit unions are even shorter than that. Some of them are even 1 o'clock.
Wow.
So it kind of depends on where the money is coming from and how quickly you can get to the bank and get that done. Some people wire ahead of time, but sometimes that's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of wire fraud that happens. And so our title companies want to protect you and keep it as safe as possible. So that way they make sure everything is secure for you. So a lot of times they won't give you the wire instructions until you get to the signing table, which is perfectly normal and perfectly acceptable. So
just count on if you are signing at 3:30, it's not going to be funded until the next day. And if you're doing it at 3:30 on a Friday afternoon,
Monday,
you have to wait till Monday. So just keep those things in mind. That's why I always try to schedule my appointments. If my buyer really doesn't care if they get it in a day or two, then we'll do it in the afternoon. But I think 80% of all my past clients have all wanted to do it in the morning to try to get in by the afternoon. So. Okay. Yeah. That is the 10-step home loan process or buying process.
Yeah.
What else we got?
It's really exciting. Cliff and I, this is something we do every day.
Yep.
So we know that you guys, this might be new to you or it's not something you do every day. So we're here as your experts to make it as smooth as possible. There's always going to be bumps in the road. Don't be surprised by that. That's just the way of things, but we're here to make it as smooth and stress-free as possible.
And I know when I bought my home, I didn't know any of this, but it is worth it to get educated. If you have somebody that's willing to sit down with you so you understand the whole process, it's going to make you a little more comfortable because this is going to be a huge purchase.
Yeah.
Even if it's your second home, probably more than likely, you're not doing this every day. You're going to forget, right? The overall picture, but things change. Yeah. So just sit down, get a little conference, get educated. In a half hour, you're going to know a lot more than the average person. So.
Yep.
Okay. We'll think of something for next week.
Okay.
Unless you have another idea on our listeners.
Yeah, let us know.
Put something in there. Okay. Have a great week, everybody. See you. Bye.
Bye.